us. And I think that for me, this that we're doing through the Partners for Possibilities enables us to reach out to schools in this instance, other than working within our own environment, which is business orientated. And I think what stands out for me about this program, and I think just for myself personally, it's the fact that we all have assets, we all have strengths. And so often still, if we look at what happens in communities, it's always others who have to make decisions for, if it is learners or just community members. And I think that why I became involved is I'm a firm believer in strength-based methodologies. I am a facilitator with government, and I see how it has changed communities to become decision makers. And so in some small way, I hope that through this partnership with the Groenewald Primary, I would be able to work alongside Cobus and the teachers and community members to see how we could also explore and enhance their assets, to make sure that they too see what wonderful initiatives they are doing and how that could just enrich their future opportunities, both for learners and educators. And I think we're very fortunate at Cobus School, probably like any others. If I look at the range of partners that he has, again, it's just wonderful that I will be part of that family of people who are already operating in that area.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gail. And for those of you who may have missed that, Gail is the Executive Director at Radio KC. And last, in terms of just in the introductions of the panelists, is Kevin. And as I said before, Kevin is the General Manager for Technical Operations Infrastructure Mediclinic. So Kevin, why did you get involved?
Yeah, I saw Partners of Possibility as a vehicle for plowing back into society. And what spurred me on was one day having a conversation with my daughter-in-law about my grandson not wanting to study. And it dawned on me that we often insist on children needing to study, but we never make enough effort telling them why they need to study. So I want to assist educators to equip children for the challenges that lie ahead. They need guidance to identify their passions so that they can be systems driving, they can create systems driving technology. And this is true in one hand, but also I see the importance of the use of skill and trades. For 20 years ago, we stopped encouraging our children to do trades. And I think that was a fatal mistake. We encourage children to continuously go to universities and rather than go into trade schools. So with my involvement in Stellenbosch with a colleague of mine, which was the partner, I was never really the direct partner. I just saw the value of instilling in children how to identify what passions they have and to use that passion to choose subjects that will equip them for the future. And that's what I've done. I want to be that link between business and the school, but in a practical way. So I've taken children into a hospital and showed them what is available. It's not just doctors and nurses. There's other career paths that can be chosen, which they're totally unaware of. The same in the factory space. There's so much that they can aspire to. But if they don't know, they will not work towards it. And that's what I want to do. I want to be that link between business, using the connections that I've built up over the years, and taking it back to the schools.
Fantastic, thank you. So now I'm kind of curious because we've got some people from the WCED on the call. We have Helene on the call, and Alan Mayer has just joined us. Alan is the Chief Director Education for the Western Cape Education Department. So I want to warn Alan and Helene that we're going to put them just a little bit on the spot, because once we've heard a little bit more expansively from all of our 6 contributors, we are going to ask Alan and Helene to just respond to what they've heard. So Alan and Helene, if you could kind of just listen with curiosity and then just share with us. And the best question is always, what struck you about what you've heard? So just to kind of recap a little bit about why are we having these conversations. So as most people have already said, there's a national and an international call for business to get to, for these boundaries between business and education to be broken. Partners Possibility has been, repeatedly recognized internationally because of exactly that, because people recognize that we need these cross-sectoral collaborations. We need business, government, civil society to work together. I think everybody who's been through COVID and has lived in Stellenbosch over the last while has really seen what that looks like in practice. And as Andy mentioned to us before, just the amazing collaboration that we've seen in Stellenbosch as an example, but we need a lot more of that in other areas as well. So the National Development Plan does call for collaboration for business, government, civil society to work together. And for the last 10 years, we and Partners Possibility have been involved in specifically working with school principals. So we partner business leaders with school principals, and you're going to hear a little bit more about it. We're now working in about 1,350 schools, and we've seen what happens when we bring business leaders and principals together as an example. But there are many other examples, and I'm specifically keen for Kevin to share more about what they've been doing with that beautiful career fair they've been arranging. So the core ideas here are, or the core assumptions are, that business has a critical role to play. It sounds like we're all in agreement with that. When the adults commit to collaborate in a spirit of generosity and possibility, the children benefit. And ultimately, that's what we're all about. And there are amazing things happen. As Priscilla said, as Andy said, there are amazing things happening already all across the country. And it's both energizing and inspiring to put the spotlight on what is already happening. One of the dangers is that you keep talking about, I wish, but actually not recognizing that a lot of this is already happening. So today the conversation is about what is already happening. And we're going to start by asking Andy to just share with us a little bit more detail around what the Cape Wine Auction has been doing. We've been very lucky that we have been a beneficiary of the Cape Wine Auction, so they're a critical stakeholder for us. So we just want to know about their successes, their impacts, what challenges they're seeing, why has she's been involved for a long time, why does she remain involved? And then also what excites her about the idea of collaboration. So Andy, over to you. The floor is yours for the next 5 minutes.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, I think collaboration is the most important word. It's always been the very basis of the Cape Wine Auction Trust. When I came on board in 2015, it was the basis for the model, our giving model, which is all really about creating a partner community or a beneficiary community. We've recently changed the word beneficiary to partner. And we have at the moment 22 partners that we fund and that we work with. And the whole model of the Cape Wine Auction Trust, and Jessica knows this very well, is that we want to give our partners more than just financial support. So on the one hand, we are a funder and we give money, but we wanted to ensure that when our partners left the funding cycle, when they'd gone through a funding cycle for however many years that turns out to be, that they are a stronger organization when they leave than when they arrived. So we do things like we have the 2 tranches of funding, but we also have a project that we run with PwC, where we look at what are the needs that the organizations need specifically. Some are schools and some are NGOs, what are the needs within their own organizations, and how can a company like PwC assist them, because they would never be able to afford the services of a multinational like PwC. And so they plot their own kind of curriculum with PwC, and PwC gives them that assistance as a sponsorship to us. We also have a annual get together, and this year it's normally in the form of a conference where we have speakers, and it's a very important opportunity for our various partners to meet each other, because part of being involved or being in an ecosystem is being able to support each other. And it's not only about money, it's about relationships, it's about just having someone to talk to who is in a similar kind of industry and field as you are. And we have unbelievable support networks within our ecosystem of partners. So a lot of them work together. A lot of them end up, once they've met each other at our partner conferences, they end up working together really closely and almost forming clusters of support, because we support education in the Winelands in quite a different way. We don't support CapEx, but we do support operational costs, and that is something that a lot of funders don't do. A lot of funders don't pay salaries or any kind of salaries or operational costs. But we believe that projects are people, and volunteering is not a very sustainable system in the long term for a base staff within an organization. So we really like to contribute to being able to afford the best people for the job. And then we also fund things like the barriers, what we call the barriers to education, or the barriers to learning. So we also fund nutrition programs, psychosocial support programs, access to digital learning. It's not just about what happens in the classroom. We try and look at education as holistically as possible. So this year, because of COVID, we didn't have our big partner workshop. We broke it down into smaller partner roundtables, and COVID actually offered us a blessing in a way, because these ended up being very intimate, personal dialogues rather than monologues. And I think we all learned a lot, and what we wanted was for our partners to be able to reflect on what's happened, to recharge, and come out of there feeling inspired and ready to take on the important work that they do, and then also to reimagine what the future can look like. And we're very conscious of how hard our partners work. We know that within this industry, within the people that are supporting education, well, for us in the Winelands, but nationally, it's probably the most hardworking industry that I have had the privilege of working with. So we also try and give them an opportunity to just take a breath and also celebrate what they've done to date, and assist them in giving them whatever support we can for them to continue into the future. So collaboration is really, like I said, the very, very basis of the model, of our giving model of the Cape Wine Auction Trust. Louise, is there anything else that I haven't answered that you asked?
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Andy. And I can just say, as someone who's been kind of observing and being in these conversations, it really is an organization who is not just talking about it, but is living it. And Andy is the big driver there. Thank you very much, Andy. Let's hear from Priscilla. Priscilla, we're very keen to hear what you guys have been up to. You just need to unmute, Priscilla.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Louise. So there's different entities within the Rupert family networks. They have their businesses side, their wine farms, they have their family foundations, and obviously as individuals, they also have their individual philanthropy activities, projects and programs that they run. And I have some sort of a hand in, a little bit of a finger in all of in most of those entities, and sometimes working with Remgro. Remgro is part of the Sofolia, the Partners for Possibility. They they involve with that program there. And then there's also the Raynette Foundation, who's also busy with projects and programs. And then on the Rupert Farms, they have after school support, academic support programs for the employees' children. And then from the family foundations, which I will specifically talk to now. And then the individual philanthropists is generational. The children of Johan Rupert, they are coming up with their own social projects and their own foundations. And they are all, as individuals, also founder members of NGOs and NPOs like Imibala, for instance, in Somerset West and so forth. So within the family foundations, they have a big focus. They have different focus areas of support with regards to arts development, conservation, etc. But I'm specifically assigned to the educational side, educational development projects. And there's different streams of funding, which the one is on the level which Andy have described how the Cape Wine Auction Trust are working. And we're exactly there with that kind of funding, where the foundations, the family foundation, are funding non-profit organizations who are working in schools. And not only schools, but across the spectrum of education, from early childhood development to primary and secondary school support and development programs, to tertiary skills development and artisan training. I think one of the speakers talked about technical skills, artisan training. That is exactly the kind of NPO institutions and centers that they also fund. So it's basically supporting the whole notion of cradle to career. And then also in terms of Maslow's hierarchy, beginning with the basics, beginning with, you can't teach a hungry child, with the feeding schemes, food gardens, food security projects, up to psychosocial support through NPOs like Community Keepers, those who are familiar with them, and then all the way through to self-actualization of children with curriculum support and technology integration. So it's really the whole spectrum. And then also part of their programs within some of their foundations, they have a tertiary bursary support where they then fund these matriculants from these schools projects to go into college, technical training centers, universities, whatever is that matriculant's life choice after matric. With regards to the schools projects, whenever we enter into so the one stream that they fund besides the NPOs is where the trustees have decided almost 10 years back that they've said, but they want to make a much more of a proactive approach to the educational funding, where they identify geographical area, and and we do a needs assessment and also strengths assessment, and then go in and co-create a project plan around the needs of that particular primary and secondary school as a cluster approach. And then we identify and seek partners, educational partners like nonprofit organizations, working on the levels of leadership and management development, teacher development, learner support, parental involvement in schools, and also technology integration. And it's really about the voice of each beneficiary, the voice of each stakeholder in the school ecosystem, of identifying their needs, not we as the funding organization coming in with a plan or directing the process. It is really about the schools taking ownership and identifying their own strengths, identifying their own needs, and also their current and existing resources. One of the critical partners that we definitely work with very strongly is our district officers and our circuit managers. You will all know about Dr. Gulaya that has passed away now in COVID time. He was one of our main actors, our main role players in the whole process of co-creation of what needs to happen in the cluster of schools that we are working with. So the circuit managers and the circuit managers will usually direct us to the curriculum advisors. Whenever we or the schools identify a problem, we will seek oh, I see my time is up, Louise. But whenever we identify a certain, an appropriate service provider, we will check with the curriculum advisors, is this in line with the strategic objectives of the district, the circuit, provincial and national. And then we also have obviously the tertiary bursary support program, and it's also not about just funding the financial side of a bursary student, but it's also the holistic support and facilitating our final years into the facilitation of providing internships and seeking internship opportunities for those learners. So we work very closely also with local universities. We do believe the research is already there. There's already trust relationships. So we use the existing knowledge and the existing resources within all these environments. And all of these programs and projects, or the approaches that we take is obviously, we currently work in 4 provinces with these cluster school projects is with specific 50 schools, and it's often with those district offices, we are also working together with them. Yeah, so that is a little bit about what we do.
Fantastic. So lots of things happening. I'm hoping all the educators and principals are listening and hearing exactly how the Rupert Foundation works. So thank you very much, Priscilla. So we will create an opportunity a bit later for more of a conversation. We just want to hear from all of the kind of main contributors. So now we'll go to Josh. So Josh, tell us a little bit about you and how it is that you got involved in education, working with a school.
Cool. Yeah, my wife's actually a teacher, so I kind of got some first-hand respect around the profession. The other thing that I've learned, incidentally, in terms of this program is that headmasters, principals are amongst the nicest guys on the planet, or ladies on the planet. So when you have a matchmaker like Jessica around that puts you with your right partner, like she did with me and Harold, you get a really great outcome and you find a new friend. So I want to thank you, Jessica, for putting me together with Harold. I really do believe we've done a great friendship, not just a superficial one, a really vulnerable one where we're able to be very real with one another. So thanks, Harold, for being there for me. And I recently, some of you might know, went through a time of where I had a heart attack, and he was a very real friend as well through that period. So I really want to thank him for that. I think for me as well, what I've learned through this experience is that the whole education process is a really complex one. And the other thing is just the enormous sacrifice that teachers and principals make in terms of doing their job. I mean, it's really not a walk in the park, and it demands, many hours of their input, not just during kind of school time. It's obviously after hours, weekends, etc. It really does become the guys' lives. So it's something that they completely invested in. And yeah, it's for me been something that I've been very humbled by, just looking at the guys and the amount of effort and work that they put into their school environments. I think in terms of the challenges, I think one of the things that I've been amazed by is just the enormity of the challenges. I think that it's on many different levels. I mean, I think recently we just lost a principal in Grabo, having been murdered, and I think it's not a trivial issue. Many principals, teachers face personal safety issues in terms of the process of teaching. I think there are also huge, obviously, budgetary constraints that the guys faced, obviously exacerbated by COVID, in terms of those who obviously had teachers and educators who are on the governing school bodies funding programs, where that's been obviously impacted. And then, I mean, a recent one we faced in Grabo is just the context of many of the schools. And in the Grabo environment, they got a stunning rugby field, but then someone stole the fence, and the nearby Spotted Camps pig community moved in and started digging up the rugby field. So there are these enormous challenges that one wouldn't even kind of imagine could occur, that you've then got to deal with. So it's certainly not a job for people without courage. So in terms of my relationship and what I've gained from the partnership, I think firstly, as I said, I've really found a really incredible friend, and it's been a great inspiration to me. Harold is also an incredibly hardworking guy, so just his work ethic has been very inspiring for me. Also very creative. As many of us who know on this program, he's the IT genius, so he's always coming up with interesting IT solutions. And then your white guys should get involved. I think that it's very important, for people in business just to understand the challenges that educators are facing. So for me, it's been an incredibly informative process, a very humbling one. And I think it also just gives you an opportunity, as somebody said earlier, just to give back and to help develop the future generation of leaders that are going to turn this country around. We desperately need that. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Josh. We often hear from business leaders who say, now that I have kind of got my, entered this space and I understand what exactly principals are doing, I'm just saying, not over my dead body will I be able to do this job. So we are all standing in awe, and we have been completely humbled by the experience of getting just a glimpse into the lives of principals. And Harold has been one of the principals who I certainly have been inspired by in the Winelands 10 circle. Thank you, Josh. There will be hopefully more opportunity for a bit of a conversation, but let's hear first from Griselda. So Griselda, APSA branch manager, why on earth do you think it's a useful investment of your time to be involved in such an intense program?
Thank you, Louise. For me, on a personal level, it's really been a very uplifting experience. My father was a principal, so I can resonate to some extent from the perspective of a child, knowing that he was very seldom at home. He spent more time at school. So I've always had a passion. I think at some point I wanted to become a teacher. Health forbid, at this point in time, it's really challenging. I take my hat off to all the principals on this group, as well as in our communities. So what I've learned from the program is there are different levels of need in our school system. I've worked with Peter from Pinel Primary, and it's a no fees school. And I've realized the fact that there are no proper networks in place. It's so difficult to really get access to resources like a resource school. I feel every citizen has the obligation to plow back into the community, and it's important that we take up, roll up our sleeves and get involved in our schools. On a personal level, I believe that a leader should constantly hone their skills. You can't just read a lot of leadership books and believe that you will be a good leader. So for me to be able to sharpen my tools with all the resources that we've been gained access to on this program, we've been able to plow that back into my own team and my own branch that I have to manage. So I believe it's important for us to transfer the skills that we have been able to have access to in our broader communities, and not just at the school and in our own work. In terms of challenges, Louise and team, I think we've been particularly challenged this year. I believe that I've been personally stretched on so many different levels, and we've been embarking on a lot of change leadership throughout this year. My role has actually changed to a COVID compliance officer, and I was no longer a branch manager. So I think we've been affected on a personal level at our works as well, in our work areas. So I had to really stretch myself and become very creative in terms of how can you have close relationships and how can you have school engagements where you don't have access to the school during the COVID period. So Peter and I really had to sit down and think of ways to still keep the relationship going in terms of engaging with one another and the school. What I've gained is really the understanding and insight into the world of a school and a school community. So knowing the scarcity of resources and at a no-fee school and the small networks that they've got access to, it really gives us the responsibility to give access to resources in that particular school. I believe between Peter and myself, my partner, there were mutual benefits. We could latch onto and support one another in terms of our different strengths that we brought to the partnership. And I've gained such a lot of knowledge from his side in terms of how he shows up on a daily basis during this difficult time as well. Well, I believe everybody needs to get involved with Partners for Possibility. I think to invest your time and resources in the school, you give access to so many different platforms to support the school. For your own personal growth and development, I believe as leaders and business leaders, you can never learn enough. So for me, we could apply all these knowledge and skills that we learned from the program, and we could practically apply it within our own work environments. I feel in terms of the opportunity that we have, everybody should take up this opportunity to be part of the structured, well-researched program, because it has very specific outcomes and deliverables. And if you're willing to invest your time, this is the best opportunity to take up with Partners of Possibility.
Thank you so much, Griselda. What a beautiful endorsement for this work. So we're going to hear from Gail and then Kevin and then Helene or Alan. I'm sure they'll work out between them who will go first. But let's go to Gail. Gail, this has also been, this work has taken you out of your normal environment into a school.
Back into a school, Louise. I think this has really been amazing. I've been a former teacher at a primary school, and it's just been amazing to go back to school, and wonderful to be back at school at Groenewald Primary with Kobus as the principal. So yes, it's really been an amazing journey for me, just exploring different ways of how to become involved, you know, using my own strengths and my interests. And I think I also want to have fun, and that also is what Kobus and we often talk about. Whatever we do, it's also got to have, you know, a spin of fun within it. So first of all, again, thanks to Jessica. It was really wonderful that you teamed Kobus and myself. And I think from the first time that we met, we've just clicked. And I think of all those wonderful workshops that we've been attending, you know, Kobus and I will just become so engrossed in doing the workshop. And yes, we've been talking at several meetings of how once we can get into or back into school, what we possibly could be doing. So really a wonderful way for me to become involved. And as I said, back here in Paarl, my hometown, not far from my own home. So I'm really looking forward to this initiative. So what have I learned from this experience? Kobus is a possibility thinker, and I think it's wonderful knowing that he welcomes Radio KC and myself to work alongside him and the learners and the educators. And I'm enthused by his ability to have all these partners on board. And you know, when I visit these schools, we would walk around, and I love food gardens because I used to so food gardens, and he's busy with a food garden. I went to his soup kitchen and loving to hear what he does, community outreach, and his partnership with the local church, who also provides food on a regular basis. So in a way, you know, the school is definitely central to the community, and I think that kind of buzz excites me. And I also am part of a food foundation, and sorry, Kobus, because you know, when I get donations, I just phone him, and there in the middle of the holidays, poor Kobus had to go out and accept the donation and also arrange for that to be distributed. But again, just wonderful knowing that he's always so willing, able, and he's got wonderful support from his staff. And you know, the photographs that we could send back to the funder to show how just how grateful those kids and the parents were for the food that was distributed. One day, just sitting in Kobus's office, he called and then another teacher came along, and just there, you know, we had a brainstorming session, and lo, before long, we had a plan of how we could do a drama skit, we could have a choir going, and very soon, hopefully, we will have them here in the recording studio, and we will definitely showcase them on radio. So I think that buzz, that energy that he has, it excites me, and also just the teachers, their willingness to participate, their willingness to look at ways in which they can also involve learners, you know, the after-school program. So that for me was exciting about just working with Kobus and the teachers. What have I been challenged by? I'm very mindful that I've got to work at Kobus's space. I know Kobus is, at the moment, he's got huge challenges with staff issues. And so I'm very aware that I need him to resolve those matters and definitely just be there holding him. And when he's ready, he will invite me back, and we will be able to have further discussions with the staff about skills development and ways in which we could also then involve the community. So yeah, Kobus, really just holding you up in prayer, and that those matters will be resolved soon. What have I gained from being in a partnership with the principal? I think Kobus is an amazing person. He's a visionary leader. He speaks with so much pride about his school, his teachers, the learners, what they've achieved. He has great aspirations, talking about his 5-year plan, what he's going to do, what he needs to put in place, whom else he needs to get on board. So I think he's got his plan, his vision is set. He knows exactly what he needs, whom else he needs to bring alongside him to make these things happen. And I like that about him. And I think what's also very important for me is the decision-making process. I think he really ensures that educators participate, and that it's not a top-down, but really a bottoms-up approach, that he facilitates engagements from as many of his teachers or parents to make sure that it is not his decision, but it is really a collective decision that, that unfolds. So it's really wonderful just working alongside him, listening, talking, the many conversations that we have. And just that, we really share, we have so much in common, and I really just appreciate him being my friend. So yes, he really is my friend, and he will be my lifelong friend. And I've also committed to not only be there for the duration of this program, I really see myself being there for much longer. So with Stellenbosch University, we also entered into a 3-year program with Kobus, and we are doing this energy initiative, and it's a partnership with a university in Kenya and one in London. And we've started, we've identified, we've recruited, we've identified co-researchers, and they are busy with the study. And so it's quite exciting knowing that this is, in collaboration with the school. We've got community members involved. Very soon we're going to identify possible 15 youth. And so again, how do we extend, how do we include the library? There's Butterfly House that we're bringing on board. There's all the religious institutions, etc. So again, through Radio KC, on a weekly basis, they will give feedback. And so not only for Groenvlei, but just to keep people in the Paarl community aware of what's happening there. Why I think all business leaders should get involved. The value of this partnership is good for businesses who want to become involved in making social impact. We all talk about social impact, but I think this program really equips one and ensures that social impact will happen in communities. And although we mainly might not be working with the learners, I think indirectly we are also touching lives beyond those at school. And I think that for me is so exciting, knowing that just from Radio KC side, that we are influencing, we are hopefully empowering and educating far more than those few people that we are working with there at Groenewald. So we definitely want to use this platform that we have to the benefit of all those in the Paarl Valley. And hopefully we would like to include other schools. We already have the school network, but how much more could we maybe also just have much of this information that's happening at other schools? How could we also channel that through KC? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gail. And then last, before we're going to hand over to Alan and Aureline, is Kevin. So as Kevin said earlier, Kevin wasn't personally partnered with the school, with the principal, but he got roped in, and now he's He's leading an amazing initiative in Stellenbosch. And Kevin, we'd love to know a bit more about that. And I'm sure that Alan and Helene would also like to know if they don't already know what you're doing.
Yeah, from my side, I see Partners for Possibility as a vehicle to get closer to the learners. I have a strong belief that we need to change the cultural thinking of people. I think we live in a society of entitlement. People think they are entitled to certain things. And we need to change that culture, but it's a challenge getting that change to happen. But I believe we need to do it at grassroots level. And that's why when I engaged with Jessica, I chose to go to primary schools to go and share my experience of all the mistakes that I made, what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to be. But I want to encourage children to dream. That's my vision. They must dream, and they must dream big. All right? And the vehicle that I'm doing it with is Partners for Possibility, but it is in collaboration with a lot of the contacts that I have worked with in business. And it's amazing to see how many people out there in business is willing to participate. Then the other thing was that I grew up in a fishing community out in Cork Bay. My dad's a fisherman. And it's kind of, you can become nothing because of where you are. It's not true. But if you go back there and share those things with the children, it's amazing to see the change. All of a sudden, there's something that they can work towards. So from a business leader's perspective, I think that's the part that I want to play. I want to spend more time engaging with learners to try to change their vision, because the educators have a tough job teaching children that don't want to learn because they don't have a vision. We need to change them to have a vision so that they can work closer with educators in order for us to change and build a South Africa. I've traveled quite a lot. I've been all over the world. And on my last visit to Australia, I was asked on numerous occasions why I don't immigrate and enjoy the fruits of a first world country. And my answer is very simple. I've got a lot of work to do here to create a first world country here. We can't all want to go to these first world countries and enjoy the fruits there and leave our people to keep on struggling. So my vision is hopefully to have a South Africa that is absolutely first world, with people that dream and want to become and add value. Because that is, in my opinion, one of the biggest stumbling blocks in our country. We have, I mean, you just have to look at all the corruption going on. It's all about it's not about what can I give. And we need to change that culture. And how do we change that culture? I'd like to encourage, and I do it with my co-workers, to come and send them to their schools. Go and talk to the children at the schools where you were, where you came from. Share the stumbling blocks, share the challenges. That's what we need to do. So for me, I want to work closer to the children. I want them to be the drivers.
Fantastic, Kevin. At Kaneme Primary, where I've been working for the last 10 years, we have every year had a career evening with the grade 7s, and we've seen the impact of getting to the children and connecting them with people who have been successful. So thanks for that. I'm very determined that we want to hear some educator voices. We want to hear from the principals, we want to hear from Helene and from Alan, but I know that Avril needs to leave us. So Avril, you're going to be the last business leader who's going to get to say something. So Avril van Reeder, you've got a minute or so.
Thank you, Louise. Much appreciated, and well done to you and Jessica. I've been part of the program a few years back. Just a quick testimony of myself, and to give some sort of a context. When I opened my eyes, I was living in Jamestown, just outside Stellenbosch, agricultural town. We planted strawberries, cleaned the dam, had a skitsy under the bed, coal stove, paraffin fridge, had to collect water, whatever else. And we got our tertiary education, all my siblings, which we are 5, got tertiary education and professional jobs. I'm the only idiot that went for entrepreneurship and business. So having said that, I went to a school called Wiebe Primary School, and we literally got our classes in the bush because there weren't enough classes at the time. Eventually they built some more classes and we could share the school on premises and so on. So that's the background. So why I'm saying this is not to get empathy from any of you, it's just to give you an idea of where I come from. I know what it is to sit with nothing. And I've built myself into a person getting proper education, worked for Grinica LTA, worked for Vodacom for 11 years, got my own business called Eagle Towers now for the last 5 years, and evolved into somebody that can give to someone else. Meaning that 2 experiences on Port Elizabeth Airport was, the one was when a lady said, in case of oxygen pressure failure, oxygen mask will fall from the top panel, first secure your own and then someone else's. So that was a fine line between being selfish or acting responsible. So I went to the part where I was acting responsible by looking after myself first, getting a firm foundation for myself in my personal capacity and my business, and to be able to help somebody else. So we're in that position now. I'll elaborate on that slightly. The second experience on PE Airport was when Dale Simons called me and said, listen, there's a Partners of Possibility program. Are you willing to join? Blah, blah, blah. And I joined. So PE Airport has got a bit of a good experience for me. So I started my business after falling flat on my face in 2015 from nothing, and started in a room in my house. We've got offices in all the regions now. We are a highly reputed company in the telecoms industry. I've written a lot down here on my pad. I'm not going to share everything, but the fundamental basics is basically and I shared it with Melanie, we should really look at who the stakeholder is. That's the child in the bench. And from there, work your way up, because you can't feed a child or teach a child if you don't have a teacher that is sorted. And you can't have a teacher with a principal that is sorted. You can't have a principal with a Department of Education that doesn't sort him. So it's a knock-on effect. So I, in my personal capacity, joined this program. We had a great success, and the success is continuing forward. What I want to share is business principles to be introduced into schools, but schools don't have the resources to implement those business principles, where we as companies can do online sales project, online sales package, and sponsor that to the school in your area, so that you can also pro bono put your chartered accountant or whoever bookkeeper to look after the books on a monthly basis. I've been shocked with terms like oma kinders and opa kinders and single parents and all those type of things. With Weber, there's programs like what we want to do at the farms is to do daycares and try and get funding in to do that. I've been involved with Weber since 2005 with golf days and so forth, where we get the proceedings in from golf days and help with little facets of the school. I think it's a lot that I can say still, but for the sake of time, I can write this up in an email and send it to Louise or Jessica, and she can share it with you guys. So we're in the business of putting up towers, and we're aiming at schools also. But I don't want to pitch my business, but I want to share the following: is that schools need to get more revenue streams, billboards, putting up a cell phone tower, maybe on a school, functions, golf days, dances, and whatever else. So you need to have a PRO, strong PRO in the school. If you don't have one in the school, there are businesses outside that can do that for you. That's it.
Thank you, Avril. So I'm just very conscious we've got 14 minutes left and we want to hear from some educators. So we're going to start. There was a suggestion for Helene that we're going to go Harold, Helene, Alan. So Harold, the floor is yours. Tell us why you think this matters and why do we need business involved, and what have you seen?
Well, first of all, as Josh has said correctly, what it brought to me was the friendship. Principalship can be quite a lonely task, so it's nice to have somebody independent to just bounce ideas off and to talk to. And then I think the biggest mind shift that principals have to make being part of this program is that it's not about the money that's going to come to the school and the donations. It's got far more than that. It's got to do with the networks that we will basically develop. And for me personally, it was a great personal development stage. I've learned a lot about myself as an individual, and I've developed a lot. And then the whole thing is just shifting from problems to possibilities. And as I stated in the chat, listening to all these business leaders today, it was again listening to their passion, listening to their possibility thinking. And they might not realize it, but they're the true heroes in education, because they are those people that come into education and lift up our hands and support us. And we do need that. We don't often hear, I think if you read the news, we only hear how bad we are at times, and we only hear something about the school when the matric results is coming out, and after that it's just criticism within the community. And it's great having people like you around us that give us some positive feedback. Thank you,
Harold, and thank you. None of us would do any of this if it wasn't for the principals. So we can always, there will always be a who gets most benefit from this. And we think as business leaders, we are so blessed to have the opportunity to be inspired by people like you. Helene, delighted that you're with us. Tell us what struck you about what you've heard so far this afternoon.
Thank you, Louise and colleagues, and some of the familiar faces. It was quite interesting. Thanks for the invite. It's been enlightening, and it's been good to listen to everybody. For me, I've got let's say a few loose statements that I want to make. The first thing for me is I cannot do anything if I cannot answer the why. Why am I doing my job? Why am I here? Why are we having this discussion? So for me, that's a very important question that I always have to ask. And during the course of this discussion, I did find some of those answers, which is good for me. I believe also that we need to work on the WARSA, what we call WARSA approach, the whole of society approach. And I'm not sure that we all have the same understanding of that. We're still at a stage where we tend to put the monkey on somebody else's shoulder, and then the monkey moves around, and there's not always ownership of this is really my monkey, I'm going to take it. And for quite a long time, all the monkeys were put into the education basket. So in that sense, I like the why and the WARSA thinking. You know, it's getting me, and that for me that's good. I'm quite curious. Somebody made the comment. Deficiency of our principals limiting their growth in education. And, you know, for us, supporting our principals and our leaders and trying to do our utmost to do that, I would like to know what is it that you pick up as deficiencies in our leadership, limiting their growth. And we have our opinions and, you know, our findings, and let's call it action research, but those two particular deficiency limiting growth in education kind of landed somewhere, and I'm struggling a little bit to put it into a deep understanding of that. I did not hear anything about school governing bodies. And maybe I've missed it, because our school governing bodies are they are the fingers and the hands into the communities. I mean, if we did not have the support of the school governing body, for instance, with the tragic events at Umyezu-Wama Apili Secondary School, we would have been lost. We really need the school governing bodies to be extremely strong. Because, you know, the energy for a principal must come from somewhere. And surely they are tapping from inside, which is amazing, and we see it. We've seen it through COVID, the power with which our principals just bounced back. So what I did here, and I'm a visual learner, so I can't show it to you, but I'm going to try and explain it to you. I've drawn myself a little picture. On the left-hand side, I've got generosity plus possibility. And those two together should then, at the bottom, give us tenacity and resilience. Because that's what we have, but we can never have enough of it. And we can never give our principals enough of it. And if I then take it like a branch out again, it is about recharging our principals, recharging our schools, reimagining and dreaming about what it is that we can do. And if this could be the, I don't know, the plot and plan for what we do as education, you know, let me not talk as partners for possibility, but as an educationalist. I would recharge and reimagine and dream again. Thank you.
Helene, so I'm sitting here thinking, Jessica, if we do one thing, we need to get a copy of our latest book to Helene so that she can be inspired by those 40 stories of just amazing things that have happened around the country. I want to hand over to Alan, and then Shafiq from Peter Langeveld Primary School also want to say something, but we'll get him to speak after Alan. So Alan, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Louise. Yeah, it is always a pleasure to join into your conversations. I think there's always been a lot of synergy between what the organization's intentions are and what we are seeking to achieve within education as well. So we are very clear in that we are not going to reach every single space that we would like to be, and therefore we rely on very strong partnerships with various stakeholders in terms of, you know, providing that kind of frontline support to our principals and our staffs at our schools. What we've seen during this particular period of COVID is that schools where there was a very strong, resilient leadership within the school, it managed the situation a lot better than schools where principals were fearful and rather, you know, abdicating some of their responsibility in rather taking charge of the situation and leading their particular schools, then rather step back. And so it's that kind of resilience that we want to bring back into our principals cohort. And it will be very interesting going forward as to how do we build that resilience, you know, within our leadership, not only our current leadership, but into a second and third tier of leadership within the school. That your school management team becomes more of a team and a one that builds the character of a particular school, and not just focusing on the principal, but actually looking at the broader base within that particular school management team to strengthen the kind of structures within a school. So a lot of our efforts, I think, going forward is going to be spent within those particular areas of building that stronger, resilient leadership within our schools to become managers of institutions of excellence. And I think, you know, the picture that Mr. Pochompul indicated earlier of what his intent is and what he's wanting to do is exactly where we sit as an educational system in looking at how do we provide opportunities for learners beyond the academic stream, you know, that we are all so familiar with. And so we've looked at the three-stream model, and we're looking to try and see how do we bring this three-stream model to life within our schools in saying there's a technical stream for those who are wanting to study, you know, electrical engineering or something. But there's also a technical vocational stream, which looks at more of the kind of vocational skills that Mr. Pogenboel spoke about, and how do we bring that into our schools in a more meaningful way. And it's very encouraging that even the DBE has noted that. And so therefore, I think the pilot will be continuing as of next year around the 3-stream model. And so, you know, conversations around how do we build stronger relationship between business and schools where we're implementing the 3-stream model, so that we get the big corporates to say, this is what we actually have within the hospital environment for plumbers. And so there's definitely a career path for kids wanting to study plumbing, and we can come in and we can assist as business in saying, these are the kind of practical experiences we can add to that child's experience in the learning. Leon spoke, you know, very, very passionately about, you know, how do we continue to engage as a system with our principals? How do we as districts also improve the service that we deliver to our principals? How do we become more effective in leading and supporting and mentoring our principals and coaching them into being better, you know, because a healthy, strong principal will then ensure a healthy and strong school, and that would ensure strong learners, and that in itself will then build stronger communities within the Western Cape. And so that's the kind of trajectory that we're looking at where we want to go. And definitely partners like those that have spoken today are all very clear. And I think there's total alignment with where we're wanting to move as an organization, and definitely, you know, kind of further synergies that we'd like to build going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. We will definitely make a clip. We'll make a recording of this clip. We are recording, but we'll get this clip because you've just articulated the possibility theory of change beautifully. So thank you very much for your contribution. We are running out of time, and we didn't get a chance for a large group conversation, but Shafiq did ask that he wanted to say something. So Shafiq, you've got a minute, and then we're going to end. And I have to say one more thing before the end.
Thanks, Louise. Good afternoon, everyone. When this pandemic broke out, I was hardly a year in this position. But one thing that I always look up to is the Constitution 28, Section 28.2. The interest of the child is of paramount importance. So I live by that. And because the fear was in parents instilled via the media or via other sources. So I had to make a decision and to stand firm and make sure that I get my parents involved. Make sure that the parents have the confidence to send their kids to school. And by that, making a safe environment for the kids. And by getting the parents involved, I could achieve a lot more. So I have attendance rate from 60 to 80%. And because I know I am in a situation, in a school, which in Stellenbosch cater for the lowest of incomes, Smarty Town, even Kaimandi kids are here, so they don't have that facilities at home. But I know this 80% of my because my kids are single parents, so I had to stand firm and let the kids believe that the school is actually the safe haven. And I had to convince the parents that I can cater for them, because if you go to USAFE and go home, you can infect. But if you come to school, I can monitor you, the kid, they come out, and if the kid is the next day, then you can't. So making a safe haven for the kids. And I believe, like Mr. Peter said, that it starts from the foundation. Because our community abandoned our kids. It is up to the school now to go and save the community by putting in values and all that stuff. So I need to stand firm, and I think I have the recipe at the moment. So I don't have a problem with the parents. I don't have a problem with the kids. There's no bullying at the school. So get the trust of the parents, because if the parents are not there, the kids, I don't have work. So the parents at the moment is my clients, and I love them and they love me, and so we're going forward from this way on. Thanks, Louise, for the opportunity to give me that minute.
Thank you, Shafiq. So I put on the screen, I hope you can see this. just a reminder of the conversation we're having tomorrow afternoon. And I specifically want to encourage Alan and Helene to share this invitation with people in their teams, because those three speakers that we have, the international speakers, and then we've got Professor Janssen, but Santiago Rincon Gallardo wrote the most amazing book about liberating learning. And it is an absolute privilege to be on a call with Santiago. It's such a coup for us to have him join us tomorrow afternoon. So anybody who's interested in this idea of school at the center of community and that it takes a village to raise our children, please, please, please join us tomorrow afternoon. I want to end by handing over to the boss, our boss. We said earlier we don't have bosses, we only have co-learners, but Jessica is the lead in the Winelands. So Jessica, you've got the final word. Jessica, you are muted, my dear.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to extend my appreciation to the panel of this afternoon: Andy Norton, Priscilla Boyson, Kevin Pochenpoel, Josh Fisher, Griselda van Reenen, and Gail Jacobs. And then all our attendees, and I also want in particular to acknowledge the Western Cape Department, Mr. Alan Meyer, that is present today, as well as Helene van Zyl. Helene, I know we had many meetings scheduled and we just never had the time to meet in person, but you know, it was lovely having you this afternoon online. Grabouw is a huge focus for us in the Winelands region. We're very much part of the Winelands region. So yeah, so it was really lovely to bring the group together, and I could not feel more proud to show off the talent and the skills and the knowledge and the experience of our business leaders within the Winelands and our stakeholders that are partnering with us for a long time. Some of them are, you know, our partners like the Cape Wine Auction Trust for the last 6 years. And like many of the other attendees said, it is not always, you know, that we ask for money or for funding, but every stakeholder brings something different to the team. And you know, that is what helps us to complement our principals in their roles and to support them. So we will go forward in the Winelands. And I think I shared now the other day something with internally with the PFP community. We started the Winelands in 2012. That was now before my time. I've been involved for the last 5 years, but we managed to roll out the PFP program to 72 principals in the Winelands region, including Grabouw, 4 schools in Grabouw. And we have touched the lives of plus minus 160 people. So that are huge numbers, and the impact are immense, as you can hear this afternoon. So we are extremely grateful for everyone for your contribution and for your continuous support. And I'm also excited to share with you that we are working very hard in the background, and we're planning to roll out a new group by the middle of November. So please, if anyone is on board this afternoon to say yes to a new school and to a new principal and a new community, and you can see a way forward to work with me, please talk to me. I will gladly meet with you. And I like to do the enrollment, but yes, we definitely need business leaders like yourself to step forward. And thank you for all the business leaders that have done so in the past and made a contribution to the lives of our children. To Louise, to Selvin, to our PFP community that is in the background, thank you for your continuous support, holding my hand. As a collective, I think we don't work as, you know, individuals, we work as a collective team. And I think that is the success for the Winelands region, is that I could always go back to my peers in the office, and I can always go back to our stakeholders in the Winelands, and we are there to support one another. So that is from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry that we're 6 minutes over, but everybody had so much wonderful things to say. So I will send you the invitation for tomorrow afternoon's call now. Thank you. And if anybody has any comments that they want to make, I'll just put my email address in the chat. So you're very welcome to send me a note and I will then forward it to whoever needs to get the message. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much to everybody. Have a great
Thanks.
evening.
Thanks
you.
very
Bye.
much. Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.